I protect kids. People ask me about it all the time, and I said, I work for a school district. Any person who comes up to me, any child, any teen who comes up to me, I will sit there and say, do you want my honest answer? And guess what? I've seen more results when you sit there and have a nice conversation than say, you should just do it, just do it.
But do you really think kids are transitioning en masse, or en masse, like some conservatives will say? Because even you admitted that in your high school it doesn't happen that often. So you know how the left sometimes is blind about trans sports? I feel like in that same vein, on the right, you'll see people overblowing it.
What's going on, everybody? So awesome to have you tuned in with me today. In this clip, political commentator Adam Mockler sits down for a candid, face-to-face discussion with a conservative high school sports coach. They dive straight into some of the most fiercely contested topics on the political landscape, including transgender participation in youth athletic, parental rights in healthcare, and legal accountability for high-profile figures. What makes this exchange so compelling is how Adam systematically challenges her assumptions using core conservative logic, leading to some major eye-opening moments where narrative meets reality. Make sure you stay tuned through to the final moment because the dynamic completely shifts once the justice system comes into play. Also, take a quick second to drop a note in the comments letting me know where you're watching from today. I genuinely love seeing how far across the world our community reaches. All right, let's get right into it.
When you think of the 2024 election, what issues are most important to you?
So for mine, I coach girls sports, and to see that girls are losing, and what I mean by losing is girls are working out just as hard as men. And when they sit there and they work 4 in the morning, 12, 3, 4, they have all these practices, and then they're cut because somebody comes up who was not born a woman, who has different body type like a woman, and comes in and beats them. That's not fair.
Do you work for a high school?
I do. I work for high school.
Is this a common thing that happens?
Right now, no. And honestly, if you ask any of the girls, I'm very okay with anyone. If they come up, I will never judge you.
Yeah.
But I do have to look at the protection for the girls. I mean, I tore my ACL playing against a boy, and I played my whole life. At 30 years old, I finally tore my ACL because somebody was just a little too rough for me, and I'm a bigger person.
Yeah.
If I can't do it, what about the weaker?
Can I ask you some questions to get to the root of your... So, okay, if there's an 18-year-old who goes to the doctor and they want to get gender-affirming care, do you think that should be okay? That should be okay for them?
At 18, you are an adult. You make your own choices. Should I be paying for it? I don't believe so, because even as a woman, if I wanted to get something, for example, a breast reduction, they don't cover it. Braces for my son aren't even covered. I have to fight for braces. So if I have to fight for that, I don't think it should just be, anything else should be given.
That's fair. Because I think conservatives should be for limited government, and sometimes it scares me when I hear people say that the government should be able to step in and stop people from getting some sort of treatment. So let me frame it differently. What if you have a 16-year-old kid who's been through therapy for 4 years, since the age 12, and there's a board of doctors, psychiatrists, people like that saying, hey, we think the next step is gender-affirming care in the form of dressing differently or taking some sort of... Do you think the government should be able to step in and stop that? Or is that also... If there's a consensus from doctors?
So if there's a doctor, I think it's also the parenting. I think that's the problem.
Between the parent, doctor, and kid.
So I'm a single mom of 3, and even with my son right now, I just took him out of public school because of things that are said to him. And my biggest thing right now is, where are the parents? My son was given a book that I didn't know about. He told me about it, and I said, well, that's a little not, you're in 8th grade. I don't understand. 9th, 10th, okay.
Like a sex ed type book?
Oh, he learned about a lot about women and men, and I questioned it, and the teacher kind of was offended, saw that my son's grade went down a little, questioned it. She did call me on the next book, but lied to me about it. So I think parents have to step in. Parents should still be allowed to parent. Also, I don't like schools not telling them. They're not taking the consequence.
That's fair. So you agree with the idea that a decision should be in between the doctor, the parents, and the kid. Like, the government should be able to step in, because, like, then what can you do next? What if some kid goes to the doctor and they want ADHD medication, like Adderall or Vyvanse, and somebody's like, hey, I don't agree with that. Then the government starts to take that away. It's a slippery slope, in my opinion. So, okay, so you're okay with, like, that 16-year-old after therapy. Interesting. So then when it comes to trans sports, I think this is an issue that sometimes liberals sort of get lost on. So what is your overall view, if you have?
Sure. So this is funny. I'm actually one of the only Republicans in my family, and we all agree that this is not okay. So I think that's also what's being mistook. Not all Democrats agree with it. Why? They have daughters. They have nieces. They understand the difference of it. Again, somebody like me, I'm taller, I'm bigger, I can do it. But what about the ones, they say mediocre boys can play down to women. Well, what happens with the mediocre girls? They have nowhere to go. So you're just pushing them and pushing them. We can choose if we want to play. I had to choose if I wanted to play with the boys team, and I said no because I knew I was going to get my butt kicked.
This right here exposes the entire contradiction on the right. Notice how quickly the conversation shifts the moment actual logic enters the room. Adam Mockler starts by letting the guest share her fears about sports, but when he pivots to bodily autonomy and family freedom, the whole conservative argument collapses on itself. The guest says this: they sit there and work 4 in the morning, 12-3-4. They have all these practices, and then they're cut because somebody comes up. But look at what happens next. Adam Mockler brings up a fundamental principle that conservatives always claim to love, which is limited government. Adam Mockler says this: I think conservatives should be for limited government, and sometimes it scares me when I hear people say that the government should be able to step in. That simple question completely flipped her perspective. When Adam Mockler asked if a teenager who has been through years of counseling alongside a full board of medical professionals should be stopped by state officials, she had to retreat. The guest admits this: I think it's also the parenting. I think that's the problem between the parent, doctor, and kid. Do you see what just happened here? The moment you remove the sensationalized fear tactics and frame the issue around individual liberty, even conservative voters naturally agree that bureaucrats have no business standing between parents and medical professionals. Historically, true personal freedom has always relied on keeping intrusive state control out of private family decisions. When we examine major historical milestones in civil rights, meaningful progress always came from expanding personal liberty and protecting individuals from overreaching state power. Adam Mockler pinned down that fundamental contradiction beautifully here.
You think there's a difference between somebody who transitioned after puberty playing a professional sport and therefore they have more lung capacity, they have thicker bones, they'll most of the time have a larger wingspan? Do you think there's a difference between that and somebody who transitioned before puberty who lacks those things playing in sports? Could you differentiate those two? Like the former shouldn't be able to, but the latter, since you did it before puberty.
So here's my thing. Even if you're younger, you're training. My son's right now, my middle is 10, but he's still training. So even if he was a girl transitioning, a boy transitioning, they're going to learn the difference of their body. You're getting stronger. So they're going to learn. Here's the thing. When you're younger, you already know how to dribble a ball. Well, now you're going to dribble the ball and you're going to have it stronger. You're going to be better. It's just, it doesn't matter when it happens. I would march for this. I have a shirt right now that says I protect kids. People ask me about it all the time, and I said, I work for a school district. Any person who comes up to me, any child, any teen who comes up to me, I will sit there and say, do you want my honest answer? And guess what? I've seen more results when you sit there and have a nice conversation than say, you should just do it, just do it.
But do you really think kids are transitioning en masse, or en masse, like some conservatives will say? Because even you admitted that in your high school it doesn't happen that often. So you know how the left sometimes is blind about trans sports? I feel like in that same vein, on the right, you'll see people overblowing it. Like, you know Matt Walsh, have you ever heard of him?
Yes.
He said there were millions and millions of kids on puberty blockers, and when they fact checked it, it was like 800, which you can disagree with that, but can you see that there's a problem on the right too with overblowing?
Yes, and I do. So I am Republican, but I also was a Democrat first, and then I went independent. The only reason I switched Republican is because I hate not voting, and I always wanted to vote primaries. This is honestly, when people ask me, military, we were a military family, but this is my issue. So my biggest thing is, you know what, you still have to remember that these kids are going to be adults. They might feel different. You know what, just give them the right key. So when I say that is, give them the key that's going to succeed. Give them the key to the right door. Because if you sit there and say, no, 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 they might be that kid who's going to grow up confused. Because you have to remember, they're getting pressure from everyone. My question is, which teacher do they have? Which principal do they have? What's their counselor like? My son's school, we had one counselor who had every flag up in the world. One counselor who didn't. My son had that counselor, and he said, I don't feel comfortable, I just feel like it's not coming to me. When he went to that other counselor, his grades went up because he had somebody who just saw him as a student, not as a white boy or a Republican boy or anything.
Do you think there's a use for a more inclusive counselor though? Because like I know some people who grew up their whole lives being told don't be gay, no matter what, please do not be gay. And then when they find out they're gay, they have no outlet. They have no ability to because they feel trapped in their family. So maybe a counselor like that could help them.
So I think what we have to think about is a counselor to me is like in the school, like a jury. So when you sit there and pick a jury, you want somebody who's not going to just choose them for, oh, they have brown hair. No, you want them to say, oh, I don't care if you have brown or blonde hair, I'm going to judge you if you're guilty or not. Should be a counselor too. I'm going to talk to you just as a normal person. And I think that's what we're missing, and I've noticed it in schools. There's no one really there who just has one agenda, and the ones who do are the ones who get prosecuted by the teachers, by the principal, and they're the ones who get fired first. I've seen it, so it's sad.
Oh man, this is the exact moment where political media myths get completely shattered by actual reality. Adam Mockler pressed right into the heart of the exaggerated outrage machine that the right relies on every single day. Adam Mockler asks this: do you really think kids are transitioning in mass or en masse, like some conservatives will say? And then Adam Mockler dropped the real fact that completely dismantled that narrative. Adam Mockler mentions this. Matt Wall, have you ever heard of him? He said there were millions and millions of kids on puberty blockers, and when they fact-checked it, it was like 800. That statistic right there tells you everything about how modern political outrage is manufactured. You have loud commentary figures on the internet inventing massive fake crises out of thin air, convincing everyday voters that the world is ending, when in reality, the actual numbers prove it is a tiny fraction of the population. And watch how the conversation moves over to school counselors. The guest claims this: we had one counselor who had every flag up in the world. One counselor who didn't. My son had that counselor, and he said, I don't feel comfortable. But Adam Mockler immediately brought empathy back into the equation. Adam Mockler points out this: I know some people who grew up their whole lives being told, don't be gay, no matter what. Please do not be gay. And when they find out they're gay, they have no outlet. They have no ability to like because they feel trapped in their family. This is why inclusive environments matter so much in our communities. School counselors are often the only neutral safety net a vulnerable young person has when they face hostility or rejection at home. Removing supportive resources does not protect families. It just leaves vulnerable youth feeling isolated, frightened, and completely alone. Adam Mockler handled this topic with incredible poise and logic.
Do you argue with your family a lot?
I do argue with my family, actually.
Are you guys cool after, though?
So it's funny, my grandparents actually live with me. One knows I'm here, one doesn't, because that one would not accept it. The other one actually said, well, I don't pay your bills. Do what you think is right. And I said, you know what? I love you. And that is what we should have.
Which one doesn't know you're here? What's their name?
My grandmother.
Sorry, Grandma, if you see this, yeah. You mentioned a jury. I think that's a good point to transition over. I want to ask you, do you think Donald Trump's convictions were justified?
So I will be honest, I was not able to watch a lot of it. In spring, I coach a lot, so it's mine. So I'm thinking, I do research it, but I don't give an opinion if I don't know the answer. So my thing is, you know what, if they found him guilty, they found him guilty. But here's my question: how many others are guilty that aren't being persecuted? Why are we going after him now, but we didn't go after him 30 years ago when people wanted him to go? Joy Bayer, they all liked him. You see clips of them going, you should run for president one day. Why now? Why are we doing this now? Yep.
First of all, the obvious is like this crime was only committed a few years back, but to the point that nobody else is really charged with this. Michael Cohen, the person that was like his co-conspirator, his fixer, also got prison time for this. So they do charge for this. And when people say that there was a Democrat DA who ran on prosecuting Donald Trump, I understand what they're getting at, but I feel like when you're convicted by a jury of your peers who went through the process of voir dire, they were vetted by Trump's own lawyers, I feel like it's a fair verdict, you know?
And that's the thing. That's why I'm not saying much about it, because I didn't look into it.
And I respect that.
And that's the whole thing. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, he was innocent. Now when people ask me, I'm going to vote, I'm saying yes, because I don't really know. But I do know what he has done, and I do know what he's going to do. And honestly, how do I explain this? I'm going to say a word. I'm never going to vote for somebody that I haven't looked up things about.
That's fair.
Even though I'm Republican, I still vote person. I did vote Madeline Dean. I don't like Madeline Dean now, what she did to Abington. We all hate her in Abington, but I still voted for her. Yeah. You know, I met Biden years ago when he was vice president. He saw our shirts that we were military wives. He gave us a hug in the middle of the parades, thanked us. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. But I don't like his politics.
Okay,
so I can like the person all I want, but if you're not going to do anything for myself, or especially my kids, I can't vote for you.
Do you think Biden's a decent human being? Because
when I met him, yes. I mean, to stop and sit there, and because we had Marine Wives shirts on, and to stop and just give us a hug, Secret Service, like, you got to go. And he's like, no, I'm going to hug. Great person. Is he now? I don't know. But he scares me when you see him on TV. I don't know if that's just news media.
This final stretch reveals the absolute double standard when it comes to legal accountability. Look at how the guest tries to deflect the moment official legal trials and court convictions are brought into the conversation. The guest says this: what if they found him guilty? They found him guilty. But here's my question: how many others are guilty that aren't being persecuted? Why are we going after him now? That is a classic deflection tactic, but Adam Mockler did not let it slide for even 1 second. He brought up undeniable factual history that destroys the selective prosecution claim completely. Adam Adam Mockler reminds her of this. Michael Cohen, the person that was like his co-conspirator, his fixer also got prison time for this. This was not some sudden, unprecedented target. The legal system was simply applying the exact same standard of justice to the person who ordered the actions as it did to the person who executed them. And then Adam Mockler highlighted how our judicial system actually works under the Constitution. Adam Mockler states this: when you're convicted by a jury of your peers who went through the process of voir dire, they were vetted by Trump's own lawyers. I feel like it's a fair verdict. You cannot claim to respect law and order only when your preferred political candidate wins in court, while dismissing the entire legal process the moment a jury returns a guilty verdict based on sworn evidence. That is not how justice works in a constitutional republic. The guest even acknowledged her own personal warmth toward the sitting leader, mentioning this: I met Biden years ago when he was vice president. He saw our shirts that we were millet wives. He gave us a hug. Yet she still noted that he scares me when you see him on TV. I don't know if that's just news media. And that shows you the massive disconnect created by sensationalized media framing. When people interact with actual reality, they see warmth, logic, and genuine human connection. But when they consume constant cable news outrage, they get fed fear and suspicion. Adam Mockler showed us throughout this entire conversation that when you bring fact, logic, and genuine empathy into the room, the manufactured outrage unravels fast. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.